see actually a couple of HR professionals in the room who are specializing around this entire transformation. And I'm sure these, I've seen IT professionals, I'm seeing compliance professionals. I'm sure that you would need to have HR professionals in this room to really make this journey a success. The second is, what needs to be done to support the compliance operations, and a little bit of thought around that. How do you keep pace with the changes in the regulatory landscape? How do you monitor the third-party risks? And then this is clearly, all the FCPA violations that if you were to do a trending around that, and there's multiple research around that piece. I think third-party management is clearly coming out to be fairly a large piece of cake that needs to be stitched well within an organization framework. So I think that's still kind of a little weak in many organizations. And how do you encourage, therefore, finally the whistleblower activity? So I think these are the five, broad, risks on the GRC space that we see shaping up. I'll just maybe take a couple of minutes now on the solution in part of it. If you first look at the culture of compliance, there are three key focus areas. One, how do you enable a communication platform, especially to communicate the tone at the top. In very large multinational organizations which have deep investments, I think it's relatively well developed there, the communication platforms. But most of the other organizations which are in the growth mode are struggling to ensure that how do you effectively communicate a proper tone at the top. Which therefore means that there needs to be a kind of a governance module embedded as part of your policy management itself. And not many organizations have started to think around what kind of governance modules we need to impregnate within our overall policy management framework. So that's, I think, to my mind, one clear next piece that's going to really come out. The second is obviously educating your own stakeholders, your independent directors, board. How do you ensure that they don't fret, they don't get scared about all the news around the world, and they really understand your organization, and the efforts that you're doing to be compliant. So therefore, what kind of training modules you would need to really create to educate all the layers across the organization hierarchy, be your board, be your executive management, C-suite, be your employees, be your business associates, vendors. I think that's another clear domain. I think that's from entrepreneurs who might believe that this is a fantastic business opportunity to collaborate and come up with models for the future. Purely looking at creating excellent compliance service and board evaluation templates. Okay, I've spent last 2.5 years working with multiple boards and board evaluation, and I've seen that this is an area which is still emerging. People are still grappling with what's the right parameters that one needs to think about a robust board evaluation framework. And finally, how do you keep on having the right assessment templates for gauging the culture, the compliance culture, whether that's getting implemented well. So therefore, all your online training tools, etc. So therefore, technology enmeshment within your entire compliance GRC spaces is so very vivid now that you just can't afford to ignore that. The second aspect that I thought that I should draw your attention to is the increased investments in compliance. Apart from everything else, I think the upskilling of your own resources within the compliance domain and vertical is, I think, to any compliance organization, the first basic and fundamental challenge. So therefore, what many organizations have already started thinking about is that could you really start looking at things like robotics, putting some bots which could really look at the universe of various publications that are coming up, gather, maybe do an intelligent word search for you, gather the insights which you are looking for, and help you get that presented in a precise format, so that in spite of all the changes as human beings, the only constraint that we all have is 24 hours a day. right? So therefore, within that world, they limit, how do you really optimize your time to get better and better insights. So I think that's, typically investments in robotics, I think is going to be clearly, a future, because it's going to be very, very difficult for organizations to try and, capture the entire volume of all changes. I was just reading through one of the Thomson Reuters surveys that were there, and it said that there was something like 50,000 plus changes and enactments, etc., in the last 1 year, in 2016. So I think it's physically impossible for somebody to really be at it on a real-time basis. So I think technology support is clearly something that's going to come up. The third is, I'll move to the third-party risk part of it, which is, if you look at the survey that I was talking about 75% of all the foreign bribery, cases that were there, kind of involve third parties. And that's like, these are out of 427 corruption cases which were there in the last 2016 calendar year. And therefore, if you need to tackle the third-party risk problem, the clear framework, right from a policy, right? How do you identify the third party? How do you train them? How do you enable them? It's a huge and deep investment that many of the banks and large MNCs have put in. But with the global integration and the rise, with the Indian companies taking larger role cross borders, I think this is an area which is going to be, again, a lot of focus for our clients. So we really see that, newer products, newer solutions around third-party management, definitely be the next thing in the offing. And finally, if you look at the whistleblower, how do you really start encouraging whistleblower, activity? You would know that Canada has come up with a, whistleblower protection policy. UK has come up with one. US is, has one. So within your organization, other than putting up a whistleblower helpline, doing the anti-retaliation trainings and making people aware and putting a speaker policy, okay, the pure program management and tools and technologies that need to be deployed to manage this as a project in itself, I think is going to be clearly, the next wave of investment and focus that organizations would want to really put in. So therefore, if I were to sum up, I kind of only see three broad dimensions to where I believe, in the next 3 to 5 years, the focus is going to be extremely strong on. One, to summarize, investments in technology, right across the spectrum. Second is looking at a far more cogent and a holistic approach to providing solutions to the compliance problem, be that HR involvement, be that finance involvement, be that leadership involvement, be that IT involvement. It's not going to be a go solo game. It's going to be a cross-pollinated game. That's what we're very sure that the future has in store for all of us. And third is that I'm sure that if you were to be a CIO of your organization and look at his forecasted budget for the next 3 years, there is going to be a fairly high chunk of investment earmarked for investment in technology platforms, be that rudimentary compliance tracking tools, be that right now maybe putting some bots to help you track and automate the volume of changes. So that, having said that, at the end of the day, as you said, that you can have all this in place, but until and unless the tone at the top matches, this entire gamut, nothing works. And that's why I thought that, this could be the appropriate finale to the future, that we can choose to be what we have been all this while, provided the tone doesn't change. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi. Every time we have a discussion on this topic around compliance, there's a huge amount of focus in terms of technology enabling. What we tend to kind of not focus on that, it's the people who design the technology. Machines don't design machines. Aside from the fact that the robot doesn't pay taxes and the robot will not go to jail, do you think there is a need for us to kind of slightly take a longer term view on the fact that, yeah, you can take away all the, I guess, duplicative and repetitive tasks away, but in the end, it's the humans who will have to do the decision making, and therefore there's a lot more that needs to be done in terms of upskilling and training the human skills or the resources within an organization to understand what risk means, what compliance means, and therefore everybody becomes an ambassador of driving the right culture.
Can't agree more with you, Vic. Imagine you were running an organization of 5,000 people with an attrition rate of 20-22%, right? What mechanism would you really think through? Okay, to really go and reach out and impregnate the compliance culture and consciousness in a new journey. Right? Imagine that we need to do this without a technology support. So I think you're absolutely right. Technology has to play a role of taking out the routine and something which is repeatable out of the compliance person's agenda, so that they are able to really do an effective utilization of their time around multiple more aspects that is a need now and no longer a nice to have kind of piece. So technology will be there, and to your point, Vic, if you look at the lot of GRC tools and technologies that have evolved over ages, okay, and I do a fair bit of work with Archer, SAP GRC folks. And if I were to talk to any of the SAP GRC sales guys, they're always having a grumpy face, and I keep on asking them, what's wrong? Sales targets nahi ho raha hai. Kyun nahi ho raha hai? The GRC is not selling. Why is GRC not selling? Well, you know the answer. So the challenge there is that today, if you develop a technology from a pure play IT perspective, there is a challenge there. If you develop a technology keeping in mind, if maybe, the future that we can add as a futurist is that maybe the days have come when compliance professionals would need to really start collaborating with technology organizations to provide solutions to their own domain. Right? And today, if you look at any other sector, that's how it has happened. Today, look at the healthcare sector, look at the R&D part of it in pharmaceutical companies. It's always been the guys who have been professionals, who have tied up with IT organizations to provide workable solutions. I think, as I said, that's
so
future.
that is why we've got the solution providers also in the room as the users as well as the thought provokers and the consulting firms together.
Fantastic. Just maintain the DNA next time.
Yes, sir. Any other question? Last question for the day.
With respect to most challenging trends in technology, etc., in the risk domain, Capgemini recently released some kind of a report saying that most senior leadership is so much disassociated from the latest